The book of Nehemiah tells the story of a God-ordained leader and his work to aid the restored community to rebuild the wall around the city of Jerusalem. But more than that, the book recounts God's faithfulness to his promise to restore the fortunes of his people and grant them the joy that comes through worshiping him. In 444 BC, the Persian Emperor Artaxerxes granted Nehemiah the freedom to relocate to the Jewish homeland, even appointing him to be the governor of Judah. Once there, Nehemiah led the people, descendants of the remnant that had returned from exile a century earlier, to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. Under his direction, this task took only 52 days. In about 432 BC, Nehemiah was recalled to Persia for approximately a year before returning to Judah for a second term. Nehemiah's inclusion of Ezra's spiritual reforms in this book makes it clear that his goal was to restore the spiritual health of the people along with rebuilding the wall. The earlier exile to Babylon and the temple's destruction vividly portrayed the consequences of sin. The fact that Jerusalem was in shambles was a picture of the spiritual state of the people, and God would not allow his people to tarnish his name and make a mockery of his dwelling place. Rebuilding the temple, which happened a century before Nehemiah's return, and the wall around the city demonstrated that God had not forgotten his people. He would help his people rebuild and would be worshipped once again. The people that Nehemiah came back to, however, continued in their lackadaisical spiritual stupor, even after having been in the land for many years. They had faced ongoing opposition since their return, which exposed their spiritual lethargy and cold-hearted indifference to the Lord. In light of God's mercies, God anointed leaders like Nehemiah and prophets like Malachi to continue to remind the people of their need to repent. The latter half of the book of Nehemiah portrays the spiritual revival that followed their rebuilding of the wall around the city. Not only was the city rebuilt, but the people were rebuilt as well. One theme of the book is clear: God will see to it that his name is glorified. In spite of the people's sin and the brokenness of life in a fallen world, he would, time and time again, see to it that his people were restored so that the world would know the greatness of his name. The spiritual restoration led by Nehemiah is a picture of the hope offered by the good news of Jesus. To those broken and destroyed by sin, Jesus' work offers the ever-present hope of restoration. You are a God ready to forgive, gracious and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. Nehemiah 9:17.